Hey guys, Sean here, and welcome to the F1 Word. Now, as you may have heard, Lewis Hamilton made the switch to Ferrari for 2025, and following a huge amount of hype from the media over the winter, a lot was expected of the seven-time world champion's big move, one of the biggest driver transfers of all time. After all, it did mean statistically the most successful team and driver in F1 history finally partnering up. However, those dreams over the winter rapidly turned into a nightmare, and the fairy tale union narrative soon went quiet. And during the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, the Brit made some surprising and frankly jarring comments, describing himself as useless following his Q2 exit on Saturday, and even went as far as to suggest that the team probably need to change driver. Of course, these comments were made more or less the second he stepped out of the car when emotions were running high, and he'd had no time to compose himself to help cover up those frustrations. Ultimately, stick a microphone under a driver's nose immediately after a disappointing result and you're going to get lines like that, but still, they were a bit surprising. Things didn't really change, though, following another poor day where he ended up finishing where he started, and post-race, he doubled down to the media saying that he still felt the same, and speaking to Sky Sports F1, he elaborated slightly, although still somewhat cryptically, that there was a lot going on in the background that wasn't great, but did make it clear that he still loves the team and hopefully will be back after the summer break. But that was just the latest chapter in what has been a very difficult first 14 races in that famous red car, and even though he's endured some poor runs of form since the introduction of these regulations back in 2022, and indeed has looked low at times before, this did feel like an even lower point than that, and it seems like the road back to form is a bit of a long one for him. But the question I wanted to try and answer today is just how bad has it been for Lewis Hamilton at the famous Italian team in 2025, and what hope could he cling on to that things will get better? So his start to the season wasn't epic as he picked up a single point in the opening race of the year, but just 1 week later he was on top, literally, as he took a surprise victory in the China sprint. Things were looking all right. That was followed, though, by a decent race before he was stripped of his point-scoring result due to excessive plank wear. Even worse for Ferrari, Leclerc was disqualified too as his car was found to be underweight. A nightmare end to a weekend that had started so well. Despite all the doom and gloom, Lewis went on a run of 11 consecutive point-scoring finishes before taking 12th in Budapest to bring that run to an end. Funnily enough, had he not been disqualified in China, as in had his car been legal, it would have meant that he would have scored at all but one race so far this season. And okay, although not the dizzying heights of wins and title success he was used to not all that long ago, it's still a better run than perhaps it feels. The reason it feels quite so bad for Hamilton is that he is a long way off his teammate. Not necessarily in terms of points, although there is a gap, but more so in the head-to-heads. He is currently comfortably losing the qualifying battle and is a long way off in the race comparison too. Like I say, that's the part that really is the biggest shock, although perhaps it shouldn't be, given Leclerc is well established at the team and is a very good driver, but it's still not what we're used to seeing. Yes, he has lost his teammates before, but this feels like much more of a battering. I don't want to sit here and make excuses for him, at least that's not my intention, but it is important to remember that regardless of how many titles he's won, how many race victories he's grabbed over the years, or even how much experience he has, there was always going to be a settling in period when switching teams. He has a whole new car, new engine, and an entire team to get to know. Plus, there is a huge difference in culture between Ferrari and pretty much any other team on the grid, and so it was always going to take time to bed in. That said, whilst a period of adjustment was expected, I don't think many thought it would be as much of a struggle as it has been. That is just one factor in his problems, but as with most things in F1, it is more than one thing contributing to his tough start. For starters, in a slightly tongue-in-cheek way, but also making a very serious point, this is Ferrari. And as we've seen over the years, many times they themselves can be a nightmare. Odd decisions with strategy, feeding drivers too much of the wrong information and not enough of the right information, as well as many other unique things that go on at the Scuderia. That has left both drivers frustrated quite often this season, and the pair of them have fairly consistently been a bit tetchy on team radio. By the way, tetchy seems to be my word of the season so far. But anyway, another massive issue is the car. Whilst it has shown bursts of speed, it just isn't consistent enough. The top-end speed is not there, and there have also been problems with tyre management. Sure, I can almost hear you screaming it. Leclerc has managed to adapt to it much more easily and on a more regular basis than Hamilton. In fact, he's been having a good season, but even Charles explained recently that the car has needed some extreme setups in order to extract the maximum pace possible, whilst still ensuring the car remains legal. That's an important part, and that is a hangover from the double DNF in Shanghai, as the team has had to compromise the ride height of the car for the most part since. The issue was eased to a point following the introduction of a new rear suspension in Spa, but that hasn't been the silver bullet many seem to hope it would be. Although it did help propel Leclerc to pole in Hungary, and Prix issue helps give him good race pace, potentially race-winning pace, but we'll never know for sure on that. So maybe the update will continue to improve their form post-summer break. Another point worth making is that the timing of his big move to Ferrari wasn't great. What I mean by that is that the car for this year is surely built more towards Leclerc than Hamilton. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the team favour him or there is a discrepancy the size of the one between Max Verstappen and insert second driver here, but Lewis won't have had any input really on the 2025 car, as he was still racing for Mercedes and wasn't released until the SF25 was all but finished, whereas Charles was there and so had more of a say when testing in the simulator, for example. It's just a completely normal thing, of course. No funny business there. I'm not accusing him of anything at all. It's just unfortunate from a Hamilton point of view. And it's a point, actually, that has some evidence to back it up. In this final year of the current regulation cycle, the drivers who switched to rival teams have struggled to adapt to their new cars. For example, Carlos Sainz was a driver many were hyping up, and actually, many kept telling me that they expected he would get the better of Alex Albon this season, yet that's not been the case at all. He too has struggled, and although there have been glimpses of improvement, he's been inconsistent, and Albon is definitely on top right now. The positive way to look at that if you are a Lewis Hamilton fan, or if you are Lewis Hamilton, I suppose, is that should change for next year. He will be much more involved in the design of that car and can influence it a hell of a lot more than he can this year. Naturally, he can offer his opinion on the 2025 machine, but its core will always remain largely the same, as the team were never going to build another new one mid-season to suit him, given that we've got the regulation change next season. Unfortunately for him, I'm afraid it is a case of taking a deep breath and I suppose gritting his teeth as he powers his way through 2025 with the hope and expectation that next year could be better. There are no guarantees, of course, but on paper, the car should be more suited to him than this year's is. The new rules are also a fresh start for everybody, so there are positives in that, and hey, who knows, next year could be Ferrari's year. An evergreen statement if ever there was one. There is one final thing to discuss here, but it won't take long, I can assure you of that. Everything I've mentioned in this video, from his struggles to the comments he made in Hungary, have all led to a lot of speculation, mostly on social media it has to be said, that he might be set to call it a day at the end of 2025, so will he stay or will he hang up his racing gloves? Well, before I tell you what I think, push those useless and change driver comments to one side for a moment, and remember what he said post-race, something I mentioned earlier. He stated that he still very much loves the team and is looking forward to being back on track in Zandvoort. That should be enough to dismiss those rumours on its own, but on the Thursday in Budapest, he told the media that he truly believes Ferrari has every ingredient needed to succeed, and that is why he signed. If that's not enough, throw into the mix Fred Vasseur's comments that he believes Hamilton is just frustrated but not demotivated and will come back. No, I don't think he will retire, and I don't think he'll walk away during the summer break either. I believe, based on everything I've said and the evidence out there, that he will be back for the Dutch Grand Prix and will, at the very least, see out 2026 with the team. After all, as touched on, the new regulations are a fresh start and they may play to his strengths, so why not give them a go? With all of that said, if things continue as they are into next season, we might be having a different conversation this time next year. That is it for this one then, but let me know down in the comments what you've made of Lewis Hamilton's first season at Ferrari so far, and do you think he'll stay on for 2026? Now, I will be back with another video soon, but in the meantime, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like, as it really does help the channel in its fight with that pesky YouTube algorithm, and consider subscribing too so you don't miss any future videos or streams. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.